Hey, welcome back to the pod. We are in the final four, the final 4 weeks of the year. I can't even believe it. And I know it's a busy month. If you are like me, you're working on finishing the year strong. You're also thinking about your plans for the new year, both personally and professionally. You are hopefully trying to enjoy the holiday season as well, but that comes with a lot too, right? The cooking, the baking, the shopping, the wrapping, the follow lying, the visiting friends and family, right? It's a lot. And I do love this time of year for many reasons. And one of the things that I enjoy about December is the fact that for many years now, I carve out time for reflection. I carve out time to really look back on what this past year has taught me, on the things that I did and the experiences that I had and who I shared it with. I take time to reflect on all of it, the good, the not so good. I celebrate the wins and I really try to remember some of the losses and, yes, failures, because that's part of life. And I really look at the failure as an opportunity to pull some information out of it. I look at it and replay it in my mind so that I can pull the lessons from it. And that's why reflection is really important. And so today I want to talk to you about the power of reflection. And I actually will share some insights about it from two people that I think are brilliant thought leaders on the subject. One is John Maxwell, and the other is Gary Keller. And John talks about the power and the law of reflection in his 21 irrefutable laws of growth. And reflection time is powerful because it really gives you an opportunity to turn your experiences into insight, right? Because when you pause to reflect, then you have that opportunity to learn from your actions, to understand all those experiences more deeply. You'll gain self awareness, which that will help you grow and prepare for the future. And so, this time that you want to set aside for reflection can be super important to shape your new year. And yes, I set aside time just for this. And I know some of you might be thinking or laughing about that because you're saying, I don't have any time this month. But I think we can make the time for the things that matter. So I am going to encourage you to continue listening. And I hope that at the end of this podcast episode, you're going to want to take the time to do this because that reflection time can really help you, like I've said, take some valuable lessons from both successes and failures that you've experienced. Plus, it's just a nice time out. It's a time for yourself. And I think that, especially if you're right in the middle of gift giving season, if you're buying all the presents, give yourself a present. And when you can take this time for yourself and really allow for growth to happen from it, you're giving yourself a gift. And I think it's really important for us to learn to take those pauses because life is moving very fast. We're moving fast with it. And if we don't take the time to just step back and pause and look around and really understand what's happening, we're missing out on a lot of valuable information and we're missing out on a lot of lessons. So, reflecting, as I've said, is a way to evaluate what's happened, but also to help you, I think, understand more about yourself and to identify some patterns, perhaps, or, really to think about how you might want to respond to something like that again in the future. And I think it's really important for our mental health. So I do carve out time in the mornings for myself. And this time of year, my morning routine is shaped by specific questions I want to ask myself around reflecting and also preparing for the new year. So, this episode and next week's episode, I'm going to share with you my process and I'm going to share with you the things that I normally do at the end of every year. And I think that it's really helped me to grow exponentially in the last several years. And it is a process. It's sometimes several days where I carve out some time to work on the things I'm going to share with you. And I think it does shape the way I think too. I'm just going to add that. It creates a lot of intentionality. And that's really important because Again, it's not that life is happening to you. You want to be intentional about the purpose and meaning of your own life. And so today, I guess we'll call this part one of this series around what I do at the end of every year. So today, part one, I want to talk to you about why reflection is so important. And I want to give you some questions, sort of give you a framework that will help you structure that reflection time. And there are a lot of questions you can ask yourself. I'm not saying these are the only questions, but these are Gary Keller's 10 questions. These are the 10 questions he asks himself at the end of every year. And they're pretty interesting and profound. And I thought it would be great to share it with you. So we'll also have this available for you as a download in the show notes so that you can work with these questions and use this, as I said, in your own reflection time. And I'm going to encourage you to do that. Really take some time to ask the question and think about it and to maybe write out your thoughts. And then this is a great way for you to start preparing for what I'm going to share with you next week, which are the 5 things I do at the end of every year. But today we're going to get into Gary's 10 questions. And the first question Gary Keller asks himself at the end of every year is, who are you? And I love this question. And I'm going to also say it's okay for you to first tell yourself, I don't know, to first respond with, I don't know, because it's an interesting question. Who are you? And I think that this question is about who you are at your core, right? Who are you as a spiritual being, not who you are in terms of that team player or title that you might have at work. It's not about who you are to someone else. I mean, it might be part of it, but it's really, who are you at your core? When we think about ourselves being spiritual beings having a physical experience, who is that spiritual being? What does that really mean for you? How do you see yourself? So the first question is, who are you? Number 2, what do you believe? What do you believe? So, our beliefs are the rules we live by. And we all have beliefs. I love the question because it actually makes you pause and think about it and identify it, write it down, kind of journal around them. And so, list out your core beliefs. And, keep in mind that beliefs do change. They can definitely evolve or change as we get older. Some of the beliefs that I hold on to now at 54 are different than what maybe I had at 24. And yet there are some beliefs that are really core beliefs that are still with me and may never change. What are yours? So listing out what you believe, I think, is a great way for you to start to understand what might be possible of you, what might be possible of your existence in this world. And it really helps to create that GPS, that inner GPS, because again, your beliefs are the rules you live by. So what do you believe? Number 3, what motivates you? Basically, this question is really helping you identify your big why. So, like your motivation, obviously, everything that we do is based on some level of motivation, always. And so, we want to identify what is motivating us. And again, this is going to be different for everyone. So, what motivates you to do what you do? And maybe what motivates you to avoid certain things? What is really creating that driving force that is propelling you towards the goals that you set? Most high achievers are really connected to their big why and they know what motivates them. So I love this question for you to identify what motivates you. And what could that start to develop in terms of clarity for what you want going into the new year, right? So these first 3 questions, really powerful. Who are you? What do you believe? And what motivates you? Number 4, again, these are Gary Keller's 10 questions that he asks at the end of every year. Number 4, why do you work so hard? Now, this is not about judgment at all, but this is a great question to help you identify what you're running towards, what you're running from, what it is that you want, what it is that you look to accomplish. Again, for you to tap deeper into your big why. Why do you work so hard? In other words, what matters most to you? What do you drive your meaning from? So I love that question, because if you don't know the answer to that or your big why, you might miss it. So, number 4, why do you work so hard? Number 5, I've heard Gary ask this many times in different ways, and this question is very interesting. When is enough? When is enough enough? And so I think this question is really about helping you reveal what you want more of in your life and how to have the time carved out to do the things you love. Because if you start to identify the things that matter to you and the things that are important to you, your priorities, the things you love, you probably start to think, oh, there's never enough time. I could never spend too much time on that, right? And that's exciting. And I think it's also going to help you understand what you might be spending more time on that is just not bringing you joy. I heard something recently, and it was this, is that people are not burnt out because they do too much. You're burned out because you're not doing enough of the things you love to do. And so I think that's why this question is powerful, because if we could identify the things we want to do more of, then we start to design a life that is really meaningful for us. And number 6, this next question flows right into that. Number 6 is, what do you want more control over? Now, I'm just going to preface number 6 with this. There are lots of things in life we can and cannot control. And I think there's so much power in knowing the difference between the two. So if you can get clear about the things that are out of your control and really put more time and attention to the things you can control, that's where you're going to get results. That's where you're going to find meaning. That's where you're going to see the joy. That's where you're going to make a greater impact. That's where you get to use all of your strengths and talents, right? So it's really about helping you to identify what you have control over. And that list is way longer than the list of things you can't control. You have so much more in your control. So maybe you want more control of your time. You can't change the fact that there's only 24 hours in a day, but you can control how you use your time. You might want more control over your habits, which just means getting clearer and more mindful about how to make some decisions around how you use your time. You might want more control over the experiences that you have coming into the new year. So, this is a great question. What do you want control over? Number 7, what do you fear? What do you fear? Now, you've probably, if you've spent any time with me, I have said that fear is false evidence appearing real. In other words, a lot of the things that we fear can sometimes keep us stuck. And most of the things that we fear are not even possible or probable. And so we want to get really clear about what it is that we might be holding on to that's holding us back. We want to get clear around the things that maybe have held that space around fear for us, especially over the last 12 months, because then we want to have that release. We want to just let it go. We don't want to carry that into the new year. And I think if you don't name your fear, then it just continues. It becomes more powerful. And so when you face it and you name your fear, it suddenly loses its power. And I believe that's why Gary has this as a question. What do you fear? So, number 8, what regrets are you trying to avoid? What regrets are you trying to avoid? I think answering this will fully allow you to bring some peace into your life. And again, bring some control in too. There's a book, The 5 Regrets of the Dying, and I think number 1 and number 2 has always, collectively been not spending enough time with family and living their lives for someone else. In other words, not putting their own needs first. Those are some of the top regrets of the dying. is not spending enough time with family and the ones that they love, and that they didn't live their life for themselves. So, listen, I think for me, I would rather visit my regrets right now and work through it and change the way I look at that and make some decisions about what's important to me than to have to visit my regrets at the end of my life. And I think that when we can do this now and we can think about what we're trying to avoid, it really, I think, gives us new perspective on what we want in our lives and how we can make that more real. So, number 9, how do you bring meaning to your life, or how do you make your life more meaningful? So important, right? What matters to you? How do you bring more significance into your life? Not just success, but true significance. How do you identify the things that matter to you, and how do you really connect with that and carve out time for it? If I was to look at your calendar, would I know what was important to you? Is there vacation on your calendar? Is there family dinner? Is there outings with friends? Is there volunteer work? Is there a time for your hobbies, trips? All the things that matter to you, are they on your calendar? Are you making time for the things that matter to you? And how do you bring more meaning into your life, right? So that it doesn't become something you're going to do one day or someday. It becomes a focus on what you can do on any day. And then finally, number 10, who are you in the end? Who are you in the end? In other words, if we fast forward to the end of our life, and we all know we'll get there at some point, we may not know when, but we will get there. Who are we in the end? When we look back on our life, is there going to be enough memories around the things that brought us joy, meaning, significance? Did we spend the time with the people that mattered the most to us? And if we have that awareness at the end of every year, I believe that that helps us to be mindful of calling it in sooner than later and being able to live that full life right now. I'm thinking about a song from Tim McGraw, right? Live like we're dying. And so I think that is so powerful to kind of reverse engineer a little bit and be able to say, this is who I want to be at the end of my life. And I'm that person today. And I'm experiencing that and living that and attracting that and connecting with that today. So, those are the 10 questions Gary Keller, the founder of Keller Williams, believes matters most in his life. And he teaches this to others and shares this. And that's why I'm sharing it with you, because I think these are great questions, and they're a little different than what I might have thought to ask myself. And there are some other questions I asked myself, but I thought that these 10, who are you? What do you believe? What motivates you? Why do you work so hard? When is enough enough? What do you want control over? What do you fear? What regrets are you trying to avoid? How do you make your life meaningful? And who are you in the end? Pretty powerful. Pretty powerful, because life is a journey. It's never a destination. And I think that our life is really, it's not a dress rehearsal, right? It's the only one we get. And so I get it. We have a lot going on. The world is busy. And sometimes it just feels like one day rolls into the next, and you pick your head up and it's suddenly we're at the end of the year. And if there's anything you get out of this episode, it's this: you want to find your purpose in life, and you want to identify how to make each day feel purposeful and powerful. And every day is different. Some days, you might feel like you get more accomplished than others, but it's always about being in alignment with who you really want to be. And my purpose is helping you find yours. And so I believe when you know yourself, when you take the time for reflection, you grow and you become more self aware. And it's really the only way you can rise to your fullest potential. It's really the only way to connect with your own purpose, is to take the time to ask ourselves some questions around, why we're here, what's important to us, what we want our life to look like, right? What's the vision for our life? Because without vision, we perish, right? We need the vision. We need to know where we're going. And so you get to decide that. You get to decide what the vision is for your life. And I think taking time right now is the perfect time for you so that you can start this new year really feeling like you're in the driver's seat of your own life. And I want you to really connect with what's important to you, what you value, so that you can honor what you believe and you can have more of the things that you say are important to you because you matter. And that's the foundation of a life on purpose, people. That's what it is. So I trust you found this really helpful. And I would encourage you to download the questions and really carve out some time. Maybe you want to do it first thing in the morning. Maybe you're going to do it at night. Maybe it takes you a couple of different sessions to get through it all. That's fine. But it's important and it matters. And I love the exercise of it and doing it, I think, before the new year starts because it gives me a lot of clarity. And if you work through the questions when you do and you want to share it with me, I would love to hear from you. I'd love to know what this experience was like for you, especially if this is a new experience for you. And I'm sure there's someone that you could share this episode with. So right now, share it with them before you forget. And maybe you want to work on it together. You're each going to go through the exercise individually and then maybe share some of your thoughts together. That would be awesome. Or do it with your partner, do it with your children. It's a great way for you to honor who you are and give yourself a great gift this holiday season. So I'm so grateful for you. I'm so glad you're here. And I can't wait to see what's in store for you in the new year. We still have a little time before the calendar flips to January. And so next week, come back and join me because I'm going to share with you my ritual, which has been probably a ritual I've had for the last, I don't know, maybe 15 years or more. What I do, there are 5 things I do at the end of every year for myself. And I'm going to give you that next week and share that with you. And then you can go ahead and do the same. So again, the greatest project we can ever work on is ourselves. And so this is a perfect time of year to do that. All right, everyone, I thank you for being here. Share this episode with someone you care about. They probably need to hear it too. And right now, if you don't mind, you can give me a great gift too this holiday season. And make sure that you have subscribed to the podcast on whatever podcast platform you listen to. And also, if you could go right now and give me a 5-star review, I'd really appreciate that. I want to continue to bring you more great content in the new year. And so your reviews help the podcast to grow. And I really appreciate you for that. I will see you next time. Thanks, everybody.